all that good stuff. Do you know who the Lawrence of Arabia was?
No.
Okay, how about you?
No.
Okay. Do you know who Lawrence of Arabia was?
Yeah.
Who was he?
He's this guy, and he's from Arabia. No, he was around during the World War I period. And
How do you know this?
how do I know this? Because I saw the movie Lawrence of Arabia.
Good point. Okay, do you know who Lawrence of Arabia was?
Kind of.
Okay, explain.
He was like an archaeologist and like this military leader, I think, in World War I.
Nice.
Dispatched to
Like on the dot.
Arabia, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. Arabia, I think. And he's super famous for being whatever he did.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, man.
Nice in general. Do you know who the Lawrence of Arabia is?
No.
Who was the Lawrence of Arabia?
Wasn't he like a British guy that was like an archaeologist and like military person?
Just for the record, Sai looked this up.
No, he didn't!
All of these people are trying, and usually failing, to answer a question whose answer resides on the edge of humankind's remembrance. Despite being almost completely forgotten from our race's memories, T.E., or Thomas Edward Lawrence, is still one of the most unique and influential characters history has ever known. His cunning intelligence, vast knowledge and experience in the Middle East, instrumental part in liberating the Arabs from Ottoman control, and excellent writing style have all launched him into the stories and perhaps legends of humanity. But in order to understand how he has helped shape the world, you must understand his humble beginnings. In 1888, Thomas Edward Lawrence was born, the son of Sarah Junner and Thomas Robert T. Chapman. However, Lawrence was an illegitimate son of Chapman's, who earlier had left his life and wife to live with Sarah. This illegitimacy would haunt Lawrence throughout his life, driving him to strive for greatness. Early in his childhood, Lawrence had become very interested in archaeology and medieval architecture. For 3 summers, Lawrence spent time in France riding his bicycle from historical site to historical site. By 1907, he had joined the ranks of Oxford University to pursue his passion for archaeology. To help prove one of his theses, he took a trip to Syria and Palestine, where he was credited with numerous finds. During his time in the Middle East, on many archaeological expeditions of various importance, he dressed like the locals and learned a good bit of Arabic, which helped him win the favor of the peoples he lived among. In 1914, when Britain and France declared war on the Ottoman Empire, Lawrence was immediately charged with putting his incredible cartographic skills to work making maps of the Sinai Peninsula in Cairo, Egypt. Lawrence met Abdallah ibn al-Hussein and Faisal ibn al-Hussein, who were the sons of the British's Arab ally, during a meeting while accompanying Sir Ronald Storrs in 1916. After his visit, he became the staple British representative and sometimes leader of the Arabs. First, he exercised his leadership by transforming the Arabs into a group of guerrilla fighters ready to battle the Ottomans, fueled by Lawrence's and the British government's promises of Arab freedom after the war. In January of 1917, Lawrence aided Faisal's troops during the siege of al-Wajah. In July, Lawrence helped plan the attack on Aqaba, which is famously portrayed in the movie Lawrence of Arabia. Lawrence is also credited with the life-saving plan of attacking the Hajj Railroad, which fed men and supplies to the Ottoman soldiers occupying Medina instead of attacking the city of Medina itself. With Medina's supplies cut off, the Ottomans were first to pull out later on. Lawrence was extremely well respected by his Arabian counterparts, who witnessed Lawrence personally putting dynamite on the tracks of the railroad from time to time. As Lawrence and Faisal worked northward out of the Arabian Peninsula, British General Allenby worked northward out of the Sinai Peninsula, and their goal was to meet at Damascus. Outside of Damascus, in a town called Dara, Lawrence was captured by Ottoman soldiers while scouting out the defenses of the town. In captivity, Lawrence was brutally beaten and raped. After his experience in Dara, he was shaken, but still desired to go on. A few months later, his men participated in the massacre at Tafas, in which his men ruthlessly killed Ottoman prisoners to get revenge for their mistreatment of Arabians. On October 1st, 1918, Lawrence entered the city of Damascus and had seemingly won the Arabians their independence. Little did Lawrence know that early in the war, the secret Sykes-Picot Agreement had divided the Middle East into French and British factions. When news arrived of the agreement, Lawrence was deeply unsettled and felt guilty and responsible for the false promises of independence he had made to the Arabians at the beginning of the revolt. In the Paris Peace Conference of 1919, Lawrence acted as Faisal's representative and argued for a completely independent, free Arabia. The European powers present at the conference completely ignored him. After the Great War, Lawrence, still trying to fulfill the promise he had given to his friends so long ago, took a job in the Middle Eastern Department of the British Colonial Office, which was then headed by a young Winston Churchill. There he fought tirelessly, and eventually succeeded in making Faisal the king of Iraq. Sadly, Iraq was only semi-sovereign, and still firmly under British influence until 1932. After accomplishing his goal, he left the British Colonial Office to write 2 books about his experiences during the Arabian Revolt, called The 7 Pillars of Wisdom and Revolt in the Desert. Unlike the newspapers of the time, which glorified him, he set the record true by providing a very personal account of the events of the revolt. During the 20s, although numerous times he was offered war medals by the British military, he refused them, still feeling like he had only been a mere pawn played by the British in their imperialistic games. To escape the media, who idolized him, he changed his name to John Hume Ross and joined the Royal Air Force. Soon, he was found out by the media, which forced him to join the Royal Tank Corps and legally change his name to Robert Edward Shaw. He bought a cottage called Clouds Hill in Dorsetshire, near where he was stationed. After rejoining the Royal Air Force and being stationed in India, he returned back to Clouds Hill in February of 1935. One day, while driving high speed on his motorcycle, as he often did, 2 bicyclists appeared in front of him. Although the bicyclists weren't injured, Lawrence swerved off the road to avoid them and sustained head trauma during the crash. He died 6 days later in a coma on May 19, 1935. Lawrence has given a lot to history. He helped free the Arabs from their oppressive Ottoman rulers, and he helped them gain independence by laying down the foundations for Iraq's eventual freedom in 1932. He fought back against British and French imperialism, and did so successfully. Although he died still thinking he had not changed the Arabians' situation, he gave them something that they would have never dreamed of. He remains, and always will remain, one of the greatest heroes of the 20th century.